Welcome back, everybody, to the Unitarian Congregation of Men in Uxbridge with Reverend Patricia Hatch. My name is Matthew Marion, and this morning I'm going to be starting off our day with Three Little Birds by Bob Marley.
Welcome again to the Unitarian Congregation of Mendon and Uxbridge. I'm so glad each of you can be with us today. And for those who are joining online, welcome to you as well. Opening words by anonymous writer. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Chalice lighting by Paul Screecher. We light this chalice for the web of life which sustains us, for the sacred circle of life in which we have our being, for the earth, the sky above and below, for our Mother Earth, and for the mystery. Try the other one. I guess we're going to imagine our chalice flame this morning. Oh, Peter maybe can help us while I continue on. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. As Peter does that, let us say the unison affirmation of our congregation together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I apologize that we don't have orders of service this morning. They were prepared, and they may still come late, but otherwise you can follow along with the elements that I say. And the next element will be a hymn, number 77, Seek Not Afar for Beauty. Again, number 77 in the hymnal, and please rise in body or spirit as we sing.
Here's a full play before we can begin.
You may be seated. In light of Veterans Day this week, we'd like to thank the veterans in our congregation. And I know of 3, and I would like to thank them at this time. Robin Fletcher, David Lowell, and Peter Denton. Are there any others in the congregation that I'm not aware of? If so, you can speak their name. Well, thank you to the veterans. We appreciate your service on behalf of our country, on behalf of us. And I have a reading to thank veterans, words by Ren Bellavance Grace, slightly adapted. Today, we want to thank our siblings who have served in the Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Navy, and Marines, and to say thank you to all who have served, whatever their role, wherever their service took them. We say thank you to those whose service was brief and to those who made a career of their service. We say thank you to those who remember their service with fondness and to those whose time and service still haunts them. We say thank you to those who return to us largely intact, who found jobs, perhaps started families, and who continue to find ways to serve their communities. We say thank you to veterans who returned with brokenness so deep that they struggle to find a role or even a home in our communities. Thank you for your service. Today's reading is a poem by Mary Oliver, and it's called Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high up in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination and calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. It is now time for the offering. I'd like to ask the ushers to please come forward. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. Thank you for giving of your time, your talent, your treasure, and your heart. The offering will now be received, and I'm turning this over to Matt.
Thank you. Today's offering would be Blackbird by the Beatles.
Thank you, Matt. You might notice a bird theme to this service. And since you don't have orders of service, I'll tell you that my sermon is called Insights from Birds. I would now like to invite you into a time of meditation. This meditation has 3 parts. I will say some words, and then I will play my singing bowl, as is my usual practice. I will walk around and play it. It makes a meditative tone to continue in that spirit of prayer and meditation. I will step out of the view of the camera for a moment while I walk around, and then I will return. And after that, we will sing Spirit of Life together. Let's take a few deep breaths together to start. Turn off our cell phones. Yes. I think it's someone calling in because they want to join our meditation. All right. Let us take a few deep breaths together now. The reading is entitled, This is How We Are Called by Kimberly Byer Nelson. In the hours before the birds stream airborne with chiming voice, a silent breath rests in the pines and upholds the surface of the lake as if it were a fragile bubble in the very hand of God. And I think this is how we are called, to cup our hands and hold this peace. Even when the sirens begin, even when the sorrow cries out, old and gnarled, even when words grow fangs and rend, cupped hands gently open, supporting peace, like the golden hollow of a singing bowl, like the towering rim of mountains, cradling this slumbering and mist-draped valley. To cup our hands and hold this peace. Keith. Some of you know that I went to southern Connecticut a few weeks ago. And when I was there, I visited the family homestead where my dad grew up. He grew up on a dairy farm, also grew crops. His father and his grandfather before him were farmers. And as I looked out over the fields and woods in the Housatonic River Valley behind the house, right then a large flock of honking geese flew overhead in a glorious V formation. And my original idea was to have the picture of the geese on the order of service, but we don't have the orders of service, so it's a good thing I printed it out so I can show you. This is just part of the geese. The V formation extends further along. It was so glorious to walk and see these beautiful geese in this really special, sacred place to me. Well, I'm guessing south. I didn't have my compass with me. The question was, which way were they headed? And I said, I'm guessing they were headed south. But seeing this awesome flock of over 120 geese inspired me to learn more about birds and how they work together and interact. And if you didn't get to see the picture very well, I'll have it up here after the service. So I really, it was so awesome seeing all these geese at the family homestead. And it seemed to me what I call a wonder to wonder experience. When something just wonderful and unexpected happens, I call those wonder to wonder experiences. Did you ever experience a time of watching some birds that took your breath away? As I reflected on geese, I realized that there are many insights we can receive from birds. Today, I will reflect on bowerbirds, swifts, and geese, and how they can inspire us as human beings in community. There are many birds I could have talked about, so I had to choose 3. So we'll talk about bowerbirds, swifts, and geese today. Bowerbirds are known for their amazingly unique courtship behavior. And I had never heard about bowerbirds before very recently when I started thinking about birds and researching birds. Maybe some of you know, but if you don't, or a refresher, bowerbirds are so fascinating because the males build a structure, a bower, sometimes kind of like a hut. Different species have little different varieties in their bowers, but all male bowerbirds build bowers. And then they decorate it with sticks and brightly colored objects in an attempt to attract a mate. In and around the bower, the male places a variety of brightly colored objects that he has collected. These objects, usually different among each species, may include hundreds of shells, leaves, flowers, stones, bones, berries, and even discarded plastic items, coins, nails, or bits of glass, whatever they can find that matches their color scheme for their particular bower. They collect these and they arrange them very carefully. One researcher said that he wanted to see what would happen if he moved something around in the bird's bower. So he went up and he moved a little piece around. And the bird, when he left, he went back and the researcher watched. The bird nudged the piece back into the place where it was. He had a very specific idea in mind of where he wanted all his pieces arranged. And I do say his because it's only the male bowerbirds that make these bowers. The males spend much of their lives arranging this collection. Why do they do it? Because they want to attract a mate. We'll get to that in a second. Bowers within a species share a general form, but show significant variation. Different species of bowerbirds prefer different color objects. While most bowerbirds prefer bright-colored objects, there is even a goth-like subculture the species that prefers black and dark-colored objects. Males often steal objects from neighboring bowers. Studies have shown that the colors of decorations males use in the bowers match the preferences of the female bowerbirds. And when the females come to visit, male birds perform elaborate courtship displays, movements in and around their bowers to attract and entice females. They adjust their performances based on how the females respond. Females commonly visit multiple bowers, often returning to preferred bowers several times and watching the male's courtship movements, and also, significantly, inspecting the quality of the bowers. Bowerbirds also create optical illusions in their bowers to appeal to mates. They arrange objects in the bower's court area from smallest to largest, creating a forced perspective which holds the attention of the female for longer and also makes the male bowerbird look bigger. After females choose a mate and mate with their preferred bowerbird, based quite a bit on how their bower looks, they go and build a nest by laying soft material such as leaves and ferns on top of a loose foundation of sticks. They don't collect the beautiful shiny objects. They make a very practical nest. And they raise their young alone. The male's work with the young is done. It's up to the female now to raise the young. But the males continue working on their bower to keep attracting females. Maybe the same female, maybe other females, the more the better. But the bower is the male bowerbird's life's work. That's basically all he does, is keep working on his bower to continually attract females, and then work on his bower some more. Bowerbirds can inspire us to find joy in creating our surroundings by using what is available to us. Bowerbirds can inspire us to make beautiful spaces and attract what we want into our lives. Bowerbirds can also definitely help us reflect on art. Is art a human-only activity? After finding out about bowerbirds, my opinion is I think art is not only for humans. Of course, those birds, the creative work of those birds, is for a particular purpose, more like a craftsperson who creates something functional and also attractive, more like that than a fine artist who creates art for art's sake only. What is your life's work? Do you do it with the kind of dedication a bowerbird showers on his bower? Can you do your life work with some flair? How can you make your spaces more beautiful? Moving along, let us consider swifts, migratory birds who orient themselves by paying attention to everything around them. They can ascend heights of up to 6,000 feet on their Vesper evening flights. They use the stars, wind, magnetic clues, and polarized light to predict the weather and to perfectly orient themselves. Ecologist Cecilia Nielsen and her colleagues found that swifts don't make these flights alone. They fly up together as flocks every morning and then later singly drift down. But in the morning, they fly up alone and later return to the earth together. To orient themselves correctly, they need to pay attention to the cues of the world around them, and they also need to pay attention to each other. Nielsen and her colleagues hypothesized that they average their individual assessments in order to reach the best navigational decision. If all parties in a flock share information and follow one another, decisions about what to do next are greatly improved. Helen MacDonald, who wrote this about swifts, says, "Swifts have become my fable of community, teaching us how to make right decisions in the face of oncoming bad weather. They aren't always cresting the atmospheric boundary layer at dizzying heights. Most of the time, they are living below it in thick and complicated air. That's where they feed and drink and mate. However, to find out about the important things that will affect their lives, they must go higher to survey the wider scheme and there communicate with others about the larger forces impinging on their realm. Not all need to make that climb. Some are occupied with raising young. However, surely some of us are required to look clearly at the things that are so easily obscured by the everyday, to take the time to see the things we need to set our courses toward or against, to trust in careful observation and expertise, and share it for the common good. Perhaps when we get discouraged about all the hard things in the world, and sometimes in our lives, maybe we can remember the swifts and how they work together. Helen MacDonald goes on to say, "When I read the news and grieve, my mind has more than once turned to Vesper flights, to the strength and purpose that can arise from the collaboration of numberless frail and very many souls. Shifts take a very high perspective. Where in your life can you take a higher perspective? Where can you share that perspective with others who might need it? Who do you know that might need a higher perspective in their life? Maybe even you know someone who desperately needs a higher perspective. A few weeks back, I preached on the stories we tell. Maybe you know someone that's telling a story that's not really helping how they create their life. A story about, not a story for children, but a story that we tell ourselves in our minds about how things are for us. That higher perspective that we can share, that we can take in ourselves and share with others, can change our lives and help change the lives of others. Swifts pay close attention to the natural world around them and to one another. Where in your life can you pay more attention? Who can you pay more attention to? We might not see bowerbirds as they can be found in New Guinea and Australia, unless we want to take a trip, which would be lovely to see them. We might see swifts as they can be found on all continents except Antarctica. However, they spend much of their time in the air. However, I know we can see geese. You might see geese on the ground, in water, or flying in their V-shaped formation as they head south for the winter. This is the time of year when birds migrate, when the daylight is waning. Why do the geese fly in a V-shaped formation? This information from geese came from a few different sources, and I am not sure who originally wrote it. As each goose flaps its wings, it creates an uplift for the bird immediately following it. By flying in a V formation, the whole flock adds something like 70% greater flying range than if each bird flew on its own. Studies show that birds flying in a V formation place themselves roughly at the optimum distance predicted by simple aerodynamic theory. It's a little bit different than why race cars stay close together for total aerodynamic drag force, because birds fly in a flock close together for better lifting force. Whenever a goose falls out of formation, it suddenly feels the drag and resistance of trying to go it alone, and it quickly gets back into formation to take advantage of the lifting power of the birds immediately in front. People who share a common direction and a sense of community can more easily get where they are going because they are traveling on the uplift of another, and they share that uplift with those behind them who are following them. How can you uplift others and be the best team player? Also, when the lead goose gets tired, it rotates to the back of the formation, and then another goose flies at the point position. It is an excellent idea to take turns and share leadership with others, just like the geese do when they're flying south. Sharing leadership can help prevent burnout and can help the whole team thrive. Is it time for you to step into more leadership? Or is it time for you to let someone else take on more of the leadership? When a goose gets sick or is wounded or shot down, when it falls out of formation, one or two other geese drop out of the formation along with it and follow it down to help it and protect it. This other geese, or maybe two, stay with the wounded goose until it's able to fly again, or until it dies. Only then do they launch out on their own or with another formation to catch up with their original group. Who do we need to accompany who may be a little down? We can be inspired by geese and stand by one another the way geese do. Finally, geese flying in formation honk to encourage those up front to keep up with their speed. We need to make sure we do positive, encouraging honking. When there is encouragement, everything seems better and more gets done. Let's offer encouraging honking to others whenever we can. Who can you encourage? Who can you encourage with a visit or get-together, with a call or email, with a note in the mail? Who can you encourage by doing an act of kindness for them? Who can you encourage by asking good questions and by really listening to their answers? May we be a community of encouragers. When you encounter birds or think about them, as you recall the strengths of each species, the clever artistry of bowerbirds, and the wide, large perspective of swifts operating in community, you can think of what your strengths are and how you can best work with the teams in your life, including your church community here. And the next time you see geese flying overhead, take a moment to remind yourself what we can learn from them. The geese can teach us to stay together, to work in harmony as a team, to share the hard jobs in leadership, to accompany those who are down, and to keep on offering others encouraging honks. Amen and blessed be. I'd now like to invite you into a time of sharing candles of joy and concern. So if you have a joy or concern to share, you're invited to come forward and light a candle, take the mic and introduce yourself, and share whatever you have to say with the community. Is there anyone who would like to light a candle this morning? Looks like we have a couple people.
My name is David Lowell. Is this working? It is. Fantastic.
It's working, go.
Good. So anyway, I thought I might light a candle of joy this morning for public radio out of Rhode Island. Saturday morning, 7 o'clock, I make sure I have on 89.3 to listen to a program called Freakonomics. It's all about strange things, but to mention a couple, one program was devoted to roundabouts all over the country, all over the world really, and how they save lives. And then I won't get into it anymore. But on Sunday morning at 7 o'clock, there's another program on called We Build It. And this morning, they were talking all about the race to come up with a vaccine between Moderna and Pfizer and that whole business. At one point, they mentioned a conference at the White House where the decision was made not to mail out millions of masks to everybody in the country. Some said, why would it be white? It looks like underwear. But anyway, That's it. A candle of joy for Public Radio 89.3.
So I saw a cartoon this week, and it said the problem with kids today is they don't listen to enough Beatles music. And I kind of go along with that. But I light this candle for an obituary I saw this week. Many might not have heard of him. Graham Edge, the drummer for the Moody Blues. Because when I was the Beatles, I was like 6 years old, 7 years old. That was my music, my older brothers and sisters. The Moody Blues, I was like 9, 10. I was almost sophisticated by that. And the poetry of it and the progressive rock, it wasn't just rock and roll. It had a spiritual message, if you will. And so I miss that in the music that I grew up with. So here's to the Moody Blues.
Thank you, Peter.
So I'm mentoring a senior over at the school right now, and he loves music. He loves the music class, and we had got him a cajon, a drum to work with in the classroom. Last week, without even thinking, he hit it as hard as he could, puts a hole in it. Got it specifically for him, all right? Put a real stink on the whole class for the whole afternoon, you know. And most people have a kind of a hard time with Clifton, but at the end of the week, he came up to me, apologized, and he had a brand new cajon that he had actually gone out and purchased himself. He works at Dunkin' Donuts, right? And to me, that was great progress. So a candle of joy for progress and Clifton to be able to continue on in the class. There you go.
Thank you, Matt. Is there anyone else who would like to light a candle today? I'll light a few candles. One, again, for thanking the veterans in our congregation and in our community. Another candle of gratitude for birds. May we not take them for granted, but they're our companions on this earth who have evolved very differently than we have, but they can really inspire us in so many ways. And I will light the final candle for those things that remain unspoken in our hearts and minds this morning. I have several announcements this morning. There will be a board meeting after church. I hope many of the board members and any other interested folks can attend. We have to make some decisions about the Hollyberry Fair, among other things, which will happen on the first Saturday in December. We are still collecting food for the Milford Community Meals Program. There is a box in our entryway here where you can drop off things that will support the Milford Community Meals and help food insecure folks in the wider Milford community. So you can drop off things like cans of soup and pasta, bottles of water, breakfast foods, maybe some warm winter clothing at this time as we're approaching the cold weather. You can put them in the box when the church is open, or you can even leave them on the steps outside, and anyone who comes in with a key can put them in the box, and I can take them over to Milford. It's a collaboration of several local churches to help these folks. Next, I am supposed to present a membership growth and retention plan at this board meeting. So I've been thinking a lot about growth and retention issues for membership, and I welcome your ideas. If anyone's interested in being on a membership committee, please let me know. We need to look at how the church is operating and what we can do to further boost the various kinds of growth in our church. And along with that, I think we need to reinstate greeters every week. To be a greeter is a very simple job. You just come a little bit early, you pass out the programs and say smile and good morning to people who come in. If they have a question and you can answer it, you can do that, or you can refer them to me. It's a very easy job, and I think it's very important that people feel welcomed when they come in, whether they're visitors or whether they've been here for decades. Just know that we all welcome each and every one of you. So next week, it's especially important to have a greeter because we're having our special history anniversary celebration, which I will announce in just a minute. But there's a sign-up sheet in Goss Hall, so if you can greet, that's wonderful. You don't need to be a member. A friend can greet. Anyone can greet who can have a smile on their face and say good morning. Next, I've been talking to Linda Lamoth about the Hollyberry Fair, and it's probably going to need to be modified this year, but we will have the wreaths and we will have raffle baskets, and then the board will decide if there's anything else. But the raffle baskets, Linda has been making. She's made 4 of them with different themes, and they can be auctioned off. And she asked me to ask all of you if any of you are interested in making a basket for the Hollyberry Fair to support the church. So you can let me know or let Linda know if you're interested in doing that. Linda's going to try to be at the board meeting today. And then there's the Women's Alliance meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. in Goss Hall. And this will be a fun meeting where it'll be a brown bag auction. So all the ladies will bring something and put it in a bag, and we'll all make bids for them and get some kind of surprise thing. And then there are usually refreshments, and there's always a good time of fellowship. So all the women who are connected to the church are invited and encouraged to attend tomorrow at 1 p.m. Finally, the big announcement is the 201st anniversary of our church building next Sunday at 10:30. As you can see from up there, this building was finished and dedicated in 1820. And last year we had a special service where Peter preached on the history of the church, but due to COVID, we felt like we couldn't really do more. So the service was wonderful, but this year we're making a little bit more. We're going to have a potluck afterwards, so you're all welcome to attend, with or without a dish in hand. We're going to have a table set up of pictures and memorabilia, if those of you who know where some might be can be found, just to share the history of the church. I have invited some of the local history-minded folks to attend, and a few of them have indicated they should be able to make it. So that's great. And we will have some items for sale, such as the church ornaments, the Alliance cookbooks, and other books. So it'll be a fun time next week, and I hope you all can make it. Those are all my announcements. Is there anything else? Anyone have any other announcements? Okay. We'll now extinguish the chalice, words from Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please join me in saying the Serenity Prayer. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. After the benediction, we will have the organ postlude, and I will announce it now. You're welcome to sing along if you like. The organ postlude is number 330, called The Arching Sky of Morning Glows. Number 330. That will be after the benediction. And the benediction words are by Samuel Trumbore, slightly adapted. Renewed in our faith and inspired to act, let us take the peace we have found here back out into the world. Let us be the peacemakers the world aches for. And by being peacemakers, let us find the peace that we long for. Make peace, be at peace, go in peace. stay for coffee hour. Leslie Cape is the host today. So thanks to Leslie.